Well, hey, welcome to First Church. So glad you guys are here today. If you're new, my name's Chad. Welcome, and we are fired up that you are here for week 2 of our You're Invited series. And it looks like we have a great crowd here on site today, but I also know we have others who are worshiping in our modern hymn service, and we also have a bunch of people joining us online. I just checked, and we've got Amy in Kansas, Eli in Denver, Colorado, Becky in South Fork, Colorado, Aaron in Alabama, Kyle who's on the road from Texas, Alan who's in Houston, and a whole bunch of others. So if you are here in person, would you put your hands together, welcome in our online family. Let them know we're glad they're joining us today. And today is our Labor Day cookout, and we've got tons of food for everybody. Hopefully you will stay after service today and get you some pulled pork and hot dogs and stuff to go along with it. It's gonna be a great day. Now, we had a whole team that helped prepare the food for today, but we've been having such huge crowds here recently, we thought we needed at the last minute to draft a few more people to prepare the food. And so we got a couple of our younger staff members to help. And Matt Thomason, who's our executive minister, wanted to make sure that they knew how to properly cook or smoke the pork. And so he got them together and he did some training, and take a look at this video.
So when Matt asked for some help smoking some pork butts for the upcoming church event, I thought, how hard can it be? I've grilled a few burgers in my time.
Well, I knew we were in for a real treat when Matt rolled in here with a large binder labeled Barbecue Bible.
Welcome to Barbecue 101. And let me introduce you to your new best friend, Hickory. Uniform size and density are the key to consistent heat.
Is he measuring wood chips?
Come on, Owen, it's Barbecue 101. Keep up.
The sacred pork butt. We don't just cook it, we honor it.
We honored it all right. We honored it with a 3-hour lecture on the history of smoking meats.
That's when the ancient Egyptians discovered indirect heating. Isn't that exciting? Hey! What are you doing? If you're looking, you ain't cooking.
Every single move we made, Matt had to make some sort of comment.
Oh yeah, turn the meat this way, adjust the vents that way, pray over the hickory chips. Ridiculous.
Now let's talk about proper wood placement. The wood has to be able to breathe because the fire is alive.
When all was said and done, it was a nice butt.
Yeah, it was way better than the microwave version that I had planned.
And now, thanks to Matt, I can confidently say I still have no idea how to cook a pork butt. Well, looks like I'll be helping with golf carts next year.
Oh yeah, and maybe I can help volunteer in the nursery. How hard can that be?
That's cute.
We take our food serious around here for sure. So hopefully you can get some pulled pork and enjoy all the fixings that go along with it. And also, today is free t-shirt day. You've probably already heard about that. So make sure that you take your ticket to one of our t-shirt locations and you get our new First Church t-shirt, and you can take that home with you today. And you might be asking, why are they doing all this? Why are they having a Labor Day cookout? Why are they passing out t-shirts? What's this You're Invited series all about? If you're new today, that might be what you're asking. And I'm gonna tell you, we have this You're Invited series every single year because of how we see the church. Because we don't believe that God ever intended his church to be something that's boring and outdated and irrelevant and dull. We believe that God intended his church to be something that is alive, a community on earth where the joy of heaven meets the sadness of earth. I mean, Jesus says in John chapter 15, says, I've told you these things so that you will be filled with my joy, joy from heaven. Yes, your joy will overflow. And what Jesus here is talking about is not temporary or superficial happiness. He's talking about inner joy, peace, contentment, satisfaction that we can't find in this world, that's outside of this world, that motivates us and drives us, and that gives us hope, even in the midst of the sadness that oftentimes surrounds us. That's why Paul talks about some of the early Christians and how they were living, and he gives us their example by saying, despite severe trials, and even though they are desperately poor, Their joy has overflowed. Paul says they're going through trials. They're struggling right now. Life isn't easy for them. They don't have all the resources that they need. They're desperately poor. Yet, in the midst of those circumstances, they are overflowing with joy. And we believe that's what God wants his church to be. And that's our goal as well as First Church. We want to be a people who overflow with joy from heaven. Because we believe in the midst of the sadness that we experience every single day, the sadness we hear on the news and all the pain and suffering that oftentimes surrounds us, people need hope outside of this world. And so we use our You're Invited series every single year to illustrate this new life, this hope, this joy that we have in Christ. We pick a different theme to help us illustrate this life that we have. And today's theme is Labor Day Cookout. Because it is Labor Day weekend, so it works out perfect, right? And I was reading an article just the other day about the top things that Americans do to celebrate Labor Day weekend, celebrate the Labor Day holiday. And so I thought I would share them with you, but I figured we would do it Family Feud style. Anybody watch Family Feud? Let me see your hands. Any Family Feud fan? Steve Harvey? Yeah, exactly. My kids love it. So we're going to do this Family Feud style. And if you've watched the show, you know that as an answer is revealed, what does the crowd do? They say it out loud, right? So I want you guys to participate with this, get loud, and hopefully we'll have some fun. So these are the top 8 things that Americans do over the Labor Day holiday. Let's play Family Feud. Here we go. There's a theme music. Okay, are you pumped? I am. Here we go. So the number 8 choice that people like to do for Labor Day is this: visit family. Okay, number 7, watch football. Some of you guys did that yesterday, I know. Number 6, go swimming, go to a pool party. All right, number 5, check out Labor Day sales. My wife does that all the time. Number 4, take a road trip with others. Number 3, have a picnic. Number 2, here we go to a Labor Day festival or parade. And the number 1 answer is host or attend a Labor Day cookout. You guys did great. You guys have watched the show before, have you? That's awesome. Yeah, give yourself a round of applause. Now, I'm a terrible Steve Harvey, I get that, but you guys did awesome. Now, the reason why I point these out is because if you look at that list, what you find is a bunch of stuff that people like to do together. All those things are things that people typically do with others. They do together. And that's how we like to spend holidays, right? With other people. With people we care about, people we love, friends, family, neighbors, whoever. That's typically what we do, is spend holidays like this one with other people. And during those times, we like to take pictures. My family, we love to take pictures. And in this day and age, everybody has a camera in their pocket, right? So we take a lot of pictures. And you might even take a picture to a selfie or two over this weekend. You know, there was a selfie that was well known. It became worldwide. It was worldwide famous just a few years ago. And it happened when Bradley Cooper took a selfie of him and some other Hollywood elite at the Oscars. And so it was live during the performance. He got down, it was like the front row. He got a bunch of Hollywood elite together, celebrities, and they took this selfie. And it was known as the selfie that was seen around the world. I mean, people retweeted it millions of times. People were talking about how they wanted to be in that selfie. There were other Hollywood celebrities that said they wish they would have jumped in the picture. There were people trying to buy the rights to this selfie for millions of dollars. Why? What's all the excitement about? I mean, it's really not that great of a picture. It's kind of blurry. People are cut off in it, you know. Why did everybody get all excited about this selfie? Well, because of who's in it. And it made me stop and think. If they had smartphones when Jesus physically walked and talked on the earth 2,000 years ago, who would have been in his selfie? On any given day, if he would have pulled out his phone, if he even would have had one, I don't know, but let's say he did have one. Who would have been in his selfie? Who would have he invited to have been in his picture? Because when you read through the New Testament, what you discover is Jesus liked to spend time with all types of people. Not just celebrities or the famous or the influential. Jesus spent time with everyone. In fact, the majority of his time was spent with those who no one else wanted to spend time with. The majority of his time was spent with those who were rejected by elite society. Why? Because Jesus wanted everyone to know that everyone matters to him. That everyone, regardless of your background, regardless of your family history, regardless of what you've done, everyone matters to God. And that's why when we look at the life of Jesus in the Gospels, we see him spending time with lepers and the sick and thieves and liars and prostitutes and tax collectors, those people who lived on the fringe, those people who lived on the margins of society. That's who Jesus liked to spend his time with. In fact, the very people who made the religious elite cringe made Jesus smile. He wanted to spend time with them. And he expects us as his followers to have the same heart. That's why he tells us, when you give a party, invite the poor, the lame, the crippled, and the blind. In other words, invite those who never get invited. Invite those that no one else pays attention to. Because in his eyes, no one is a nobody. No one is a nobody to Jesus. Everyone matters to him. And that includes you. And maybe that's what you need to hear today. Maybe you know somebody who needs to hear that today. That all of us, we are significant in God's eyes. We are created in his image. And we matter to him. That's exactly what a man who we meet in John chapter 5 needed to hear. So if you have your Bibles, that's what we're going to study today. We're going to be in the 5th chapter of the Gospel of John. And it starts like this, John 5, verse 1. Sometime later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for a feast of the Jews. Now, John doesn't tell us what feast, but we do know that Jesus was there on the Sabbath, which was Saturday. And so he was there for a holiday weekend, kind of like Labor Day, right? He was there for a holiday weekend. And during a religious feast like this, most people would come to Jerusalem in order to go to the temple and worship. A lot of people there. And Jesus, he's going to go to the temple to worship. But before he does, he makes a pit stop. As we read on, it says, now there is in Jerusalem near the sheep gate a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. So Jerusalem was this ancient city surrounded by walls, and in the northeast corner of Jerusalem was this pool, the pool of Bethesda, where a lot of people would hang out. Now, when you hear pool, don't think of like a neighborhood pool or a backyard pool or even a resort pool for that matter. Archaeologists tell us that this pool, which they have uncovered, was about the size of 2 football fields. This was a massive, massive structure. And not only was it a massive pool, there was a massive amount of people who would hang out by this pool. But it wasn't just anybody who would hang out by the pool. It was a certain group of people. John tells us who this group was. Here, a great number of disabled people used to lie. The blind, the lame, the paralyzed. So when you picture this pool, don't think of a vacation spot or a place where people relaxed or got refreshed or anything like that. No, instead, when you hear about the pool of Bethesda, what I want you to imagine is a hospital ward in a third world country that is understaffed and under-resourced. That's what it would have been like to visit this pool. Because those who were gathered there were those who, 1, had no other place to go, because nobody wanted to take care of them, and 2, they could not find the medical attention that they needed. So they went there to kind of take care of one another. They had no other place to go. And most people that were part of polite society would avoid this area like the plague. They didn't want to go near there because of the sights and the sounds and the smells. And probably if you just walked close to this area, you were going to find people begging for a handout, begging for money. So people avoided this area like the plague, and yet it's the first place Jesus goes. It's interesting, isn't it? Now, this group of people gathered there, 1, because like I said, they didn't have any other place really to go, but there's another reason why they gathered there. We find out that there was this really pathetic legend or superstition that had been created over the years, because this pool was fed by an underground spring, and so occasionally it would like ripple or move, the water would move on its own without anybody doing anything to it. And so there was this legend, or like I said, superstition that was created that said that an angel would come from heaven and stir the water. And people believed that if you were the first one to get in the water after the water was stirred, then you would receive some type of blessing from heaven. You would possibly even receive a healing. You'd be healed from your sickness or whatever it is you were suffering from. And so every time the water would move, you would see a mad rush of people, those who could move at least, try to get into this pool. Now, it's a lie. It didn't happen, but yet people believed it anyway. And these individuals who are gathered by the pool, they put all their stock, all their faith, all their hope into a lie that simply isn't true. Now, we can give them a hard time and say, how could you believe in something like that? But you and I both know people who believe in lies as if they are true. And here's the thing, what you believe has power over you even if it isn't true. What you believe has power over your life even if it isn't true. Do you remember what Jesus said? Jesus teaches this, if you hold to my teaching, you are really my disciples, my followers, then you will know the truth and the truth will set you free. But here's the thing, and you may have heard me say this before, if the truth can set us free, then lies have the power to hold us captive. And a lot of people in our culture today are held captive, held hostage by lies. See, they may not believe in a pool that has healing powers, but they believe in other things that aren't true. People think, if I could just get this or have that or achieve this, then I'll be happy, then I'll be satisfied, then I will feel fulfilled. You fill in the blank. If I could just get that job, if I could just make this amount of money, if I could just live in that house, in that neighborhood, if I could just drive that car, if I could just be part of that social group, if I could just date the right person or marry the right person, if I could just have kids, if I could just have this or achieve that or move here or do that, then I'll be happy. And the problem is, as good as some of those things may be, they don't bring lasting happiness. So even if you get them, happiness becomes a moving target because none of those things, nothing that this world has to offer will satisfy our souls, that longing that is deep within all of us for something more, something outside of this world. And so we believe the lies, if I could just do this or have that, then I'll be satisfied, then I'll be content, then I'll be happy. And we're just held captive by those lies. That's what's going on here in this passage. You've got a whole bunch of people that have put all their faith, all their hope in a lie. We meet one of those guys in the next verse. One who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, "Do you want to get well?" Now, this guy doesn't know who Jesus is. He didn't go seeking Jesus. In fact, when Jesus shows up, he doesn't even know that it is Jesus. But this just reminds me of something. Jesus came to him. And it reminds me of a truth that I've been hit with over and over and over again, and it's this: you may not be looking for God, but that doesn't stop God from looking for you. Because a lot of times when we talk about like the word seek, we are talking about ourselves seeking God. And there is, in a sense, the fact that we seek after God, but God also seeks us. Listen to Jesus' words. Jesus says, "For the Son of Man came to seek and to save those who are lost." Jesus came seeking us. Now, it's our choice whether or not we follow him. He's not going to force anybody to follow him, but he continues to look for those who will follow him. And maybe he's doing something right now to try to wake you up, to try to get your attention, to try to help you realize that he is what you're missing. So Jesus finds this man that the Bible tells us has been paralyzed for 38 years. 38 years is a long time. I mean, 38 years ago from today, that was 1985. I was just a baby in 1985. Literally, I was just a baby in 1985. few other things that were going on in 1985, Nintendo introduced the NES system in North America, okay? Anybody remember that? What about this right here? Back to the Future came out in theaters, 1985. That takes you back a little bit, I'm sure. Michael Jordan was the Rookie of the Year in 1985. What about compact disc? Anybody remember CDs? We don't even use them anymore, but they came out in North America, 1985, and CDs were gonna revolutionize music, and now we don't even use them anymore. And what about this right here? Anybody recognize this? Microsoft. This is Windows version 1, like 1.0. It wasn't called that, it was just Windows at that time. But this is the first ever version of Microsoft Windows that came out in 1985. 38 years is a long period of time. It's a big chunk of time. And this man who we meet in the passage has been paralyzed, unable to walk for 38 years. And so when Jesus comes to him and asks the question, do you want to get well? We would think that would be a no-brainer, right? We would think he would say, yes, I want to get well. But instead, listen to how the man responds. Sir, the invalid replied, I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me. Now, if I was Jesus, I would have responded by saying, that's not what I asked you. I asked if you wanted to get well. I didn't ask why you're not in the pool or why you can't get in the pool or why other people don't help you. I didn't ask you for any excuses. I just asked, do you want to get well? That's a yes or no response, right? But why does this guy respond in the way that he does? It's because he's given up hope. For years, he has tried to get well, to have a better life on his own. And he's tried and he's tried and he's tried. And now he's at the point where he's tired of trying. He's given up hope that life will ever be any better than what it is. And hopelessness is a place where none of us want to live. And yet, we've probably all found ourselves there before. We've probably all been through a season or been in a circumstance where we have believed things are never going to get any better. I mean, have you ever become so used to how things are that you can't imagine things ever changing? That's how this guy feels. It's as if he's just kind of become content with life on the mat, life by the pool. In fact, Jesus, when he says, do you want to get well, in Greek, you can actually translate that, do you want to be whole? And what this guy is basically saying is, hey, sir, I don't know who you are, but let me tell you how things work around here. Let me tell you how things work in this life. Guys like me, we never get to live a whole life. Guys like me, we don't get to live a full life. Do I want to be whole? Do I want to be well? Of course I do, but that doesn't happen to guys like me. I've tried and I've tried and I've tried, and this is the best that it ever gets. And maybe that's where you are right now. Maybe you're looking at your life and you're thinking, I don't know if things are ever going to change. Maybe your marriage is struggling, and you've tried and tried and tried to make things better, but nothing seems to help. Maybe you've tried to overcome some addiction, and you've worked hard at it. You've tried and you've tried and you've tried, but you just keep going back to it. The addiction seems too strong. Maybe you've tried to date somebody in a godly way, in a God-honoring way, but you just keep slipping back into old habits. Maybe you've tried to be a better father, a better mother than your parents were to you, but you see some of their toxic tendencies continue to slip into your family. Maybe you've wanted to get out of debt, or maybe you've wanted to do better with your finances, but nothing you do seems to help matters. Maybe you really want to stop going back to those websites you shouldn't go to, but you just keep going back. You've tried, and now you're at the point where you're ready to stop trying. Sadly, there are people who attend church on a regular basis, who come to church hoping to find some type of comfort for the situation they now find themselves in, but they don't actually believe their situation will ever change. They come for comfort, but they don't really believe that Jesus is ever going to change their situation. And so let me ask you, do you just want to feel better, or do you want to get well? Because Jesus doesn't ask this man, do you want to feel better? Do you want to have a little bit of comfort in the moment? Jesus says, do you want? He asked, do you want to get well? Because this guy looks at Jesus and says, listen, buddy, let me tell you how the world works. And Jesus is saying, well, let me tell you how God works. And Jesus asked this question not to get information out of the man, but for him to do some self-reflection. See, the biggest problem in this passage isn't the man's legs, it's the man's heart. The reason why Jesus asked this question isn't because he wants to learn anything, but it's because he wants to teach the man something. And let me ask you, what is God trying to do right now to get your attention? What's he trying to do to wake you up, to help you realize what you are missing, to help you realize what he wants to give you? Because this man's trying to tell Jesus how the world works, and Jesus is like, yeah, I know how the world works. But let me show you how God works. The passage goes on to say this. Then Jesus said to him, get up, pick up your mat and walk. At once the man was cured. He picked up his mat and he walked. See, what Jesus is letting this guy know is no situation is hopeless when it comes to God being involved. No situation is too bad, too far gone, too messy, too broken for God to heal. And maybe that's what you need to hear today. Let me say it again for you. No situation is too bad, too far gone, too messy, too broken for God to heal. God is greater than anything that you are facing right now. But maybe what you need to do is to stop trying and start trusting. Stop trying to fix it on your own. Stop trying to come up with your own plans. Stop trying to act like that you are the manager of the universe. And start trusting in the God who holds everything in his hands. And in my personal experience, sometimes my trying gets in the way of my trusting. Because I try to fix it first before I ever turn it over to God. And we have to get to the end of ourselves before we will start to really listen to Jesus. See, that's why Jesus also teaches this. He says, don't let your hearts be troubled. You're gonna have trouble in this world. Jesus never promised everything's gonna be easy. He said, in this world, you're gonna have trouble, you're gonna have stresses, you're gonna struggle at times. But don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God and trust also in me. I got this. And I'm always going to do what is best for you, even when you can't see it. And why is it that we can trust Jesus? It's because he loves us more than we will ever know. See, we are his family. We are the children of God. We are created in his image. And every person matters to God. And like I said, maybe that's what you need to hear today. If you were to come over to my house this afternoon and come to the front door, we have a hallway just off of our front door. And on the wall there, we've got some pictures. These are our kids, my son and my daughter. In the middle, that's a picture that was taken several years ago where they're dancing in a park. And Allison, my wife, has wanted to change that out, put a different picture in. I won't let her because I just love that picture. It's one of my favorites. But then on the sides, we update those pictures with the latest ones that they've taken. And let me just ask you, what do you not see in this picture? If you'll notice, there are no plaques. There are no certificates framed. We don't have their report cards on the wall. We don't have any stats from like soccer games or basketball games, or the amount of times that Addie has been in a dance recital. We don't have any awards or accolades posted there. You know why? They're not on the wall because of what they do. They're on the wall because they're mine. They're on the wall because of whose they are. And there's nothing that they could ever do that would make them more significant to me than what they already are, because they're mine. And I just want to be very transparent with you today. I personally want to be significant. I want to be significant in this life. And if you're being honest, you do too. We all do. Because all of us, we are created in the image of God. We are meant to be significant. We are the children of God. And the world likes to tear us down and knock us over and beat us up. The world says you have to earn your significance and your value. But I just want to let you know something. You're not significant because of what you do. You are significant because of whose you are. And I believe that there is a giant, colossal wall in heaven that has your picture on it. And beside your picture, there's not a plaque, there's not a certificate, there's no awards or achievements. You are on God's wall, not because of anything you've ever done, but because you were created in His image. He loves you, and He wants to do life with you. He sees you as significant because you're His. And don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise. You're not significant because of what you do, but because of whose you are. And the world will try to tell us otherwise. In fact, that's what happens in our passage, John chapter 5. Right after this man by the pool is healed by Jesus, he's going through Jerusalem, going to the temple, carrying his mat that he was laying on, and look at what happens. It says, the day on which this took place was a Sabbath day, and so the Jews said to the man who had been healed, it is the Sabbath. The law forbids you to carry your mat. Because you see, you weren't supposed to work on the Sabbath, and they considered carrying something a work. And so you've got a man who's been paralyzed for 38 years and is now able to walk for the very first time. And he's celebrating, he's carrying his mat, something he hasn't been able to do. And the religious people look at him and say, how dare you? They want to put him back in his place. They don't want to celebrate him. And here's the thing, there are going to be people all the time in our world who are going to criticize you and put you down and try to put you in the place where they believe you need to be. They will try to lessen what God has done in your life and lessen what He wants to do in your life. Don't believe their lies. Because in God's eyes, you are worth everything. See, I asked the question earlier, who would be in Jesus' selfie? I think you know the answer. You would be. Jesus wants you, yes, you, in His selfie. He wants you to get in the picture. The question is, will you get in the picture with Him? You know, we're gonna have a Labor Day cookout here in just a second, and we're gonna go eat the pulled pork, and it's gonna be awesome and great. But I bet some of you will pull out that camera in your pocket and take some pictures. Can I challenge all of you to do that today? Get out your phone and take a selfie. And try to find somebody that maybe you don't know. Maybe somebody that you've seen at a distance but never really introduced yourself to them. Try to take a selfie or multiple selfies with as many people in the picture as you possibly can. Take a bunch of selfies, then you can post it online if you want to. You don't have to say who's in the picture or anything. You don't have to say why you're doing it. You can just put, Labor Day cookout at First Church or whatever. But every time that picture pops back up in your memories, or maybe somebody likes a picture or comments on it, you see it on social media, you will be reminded that God wants as many people as possible in His selfie, and He's using you to invite them to be part of His bigger picture. Don't ever let anybody tell you otherwise. You matter to God, and He wants you in His picture. Would you pray with me? Father, I thank you so much for today. I thank you for this chance that we've had to open up your word and be encouraged by it. And Father, I just pray that we will use what we've heard today to go out and first live up to the calling that you have on our lives, but also to share that life with those around us. Father, I thank you for this chance we have to have fun and to celebrate you, but also, Father, to enjoy the grace that you've given us through Jesus. It's in the name of Jesus that I pray. Amen.